Hey everyone, it's the Cooper Man. Headcanons. Everyone's got them, like assholes, and a lot of them are rancid and full of shit, also like assholes. Headcanons, or fan canons, are part of every fandom and franchise. We did a number of videos on these topics, such as my video on shipping where we discussed fan pairings of characters, to a video about what is and is not canon itself where we discussed how to identify canon, and we even talked about retcons, when canon changes its own canon. Where headcanons and retcons differ, though, is that headcanons are, as the name would suggest, in the heads of the fans. They aren't truly official, and a lot of the time they're perfectly harmless, provided the fans acknowledge that these headcanons are not true canon. That doesn't mean that it stays the case forever, though. Sometimes franchises do adopt fan canon. Sometimes even the most absurd ones. Mortal Kombat is infamous for this, for turning an error message fans mistook as a secret character into a character, Ermac, and then his female counterpart Scarlet. Now, while I could go on further about Ascended headcanons and Ascended fanon, that could be a topic for its own video, so we'll hold off on that for now. More to the point, most headcanons remain just that, in the heads of the fans, and a lot of the time it's for a very good reason. There are a number of headcanons, though, that go a bit wild. Sometimes headcanons spread so much that they overtake the public perception of certain fandoms. Luke, I am your father, and Beam Me Up Scotty, for example. Not that these are fan canons per se, just misremembered lines, but most headcanons do come from misplaced preconceptions. One series that has a lot of these is Pokemon. As I've been replaying the older Pokemon games, I have been talking a lot about the game's setting, characters, and lore, which led to a certain friend of mine sharing a lot of his believed headcanons. One of which is the fact that he believes Giratina is Poke-Satan. Now, to be fair, this argument is so convincing, it's even in the origin section of the Bulbapedia page for Giratina. What this headcanon dictates is that Giratina has a motif of 666 and draws attention to the fact that it takes the form of a serpentine dragon. Even within the lore, it rebelled against its creator. Now, with all this put together, it seems like a really strong basis for this fan theory to be actual canon. Junichi Masuda and Takeshi Kawachimaru, who were on the dev team for Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, heck, Masuda was the director, stated that Giratina was based on the concept of antimatter. As such, its violent nature and existence on another plane makes sense. Antimatter is supposed to be violent and chaotic. If Giratina were a Satan analog, it'd be a Tempter, which in the game Legends Arceus, it very much isn't. Spoilers for that game, but the final villain, a man named Volo, was the one to talk Giratina into allying with him, not the other way around. And much of his design having the motif of 6 and draconic features is purely coincidental. After all three of the creation trio have the dragon type. Furthermore, the Sinnoh creation myth goes off the Shinto belief that Izanami and Izanagi created the universe out of the primordial sea. This parallels to the Sinnoh belief that Palkia and Dialga created the world atop Mount Coronet. Giratina barely factors into it. To put it quite simply, while there are plausible elements, there isn't enough meat on the bones to treat it as canon. And by meat, I mean official confirmations. Another misconception he has is of the mythical Pokemon Darkrai introduced in the same generation, which he uses as proof that Pokemon can be, and that some are, to put it bluntly, evil. This isn't helped by the fact that in Japan the dark type is called the evil type, but let's break this down. The mythical Pokemon Darkrai is a being of nightmares that makes it a contrast to the Pokemon Cresselia, a Pokemon of dreams. It lives alone on the desolate New Moon Island and can only be accessed through an event distribution of the membership card. With it, you are taken to New Moon Island and battle and catch it in a dream. Darkrai is also the only Pokemon that can learn Dark Void, which puts multiple targets to sleep, and its ability, Bad Dreams, works as a passive nightmare effect, inflicting damage to sleeping foes. Earlier in the game, a character in Canalave City, where the membership card is used, falls into an endless nightmare and must be given a Crescent Wing item in order to wake him up. This foreshadows the event within the base game. Jumping ahead to Pokemon Black 2 and White 2, the player comes across the ghost of a girl who died falling into an endless nightmare, and she gives the player a Crescent Wing, telling them that it'd do her no good anymore. This very much implies that Darkrai was responsible for her death. Now, all of this is very strong evidence that Darkrai did kill this girl. However, it's being read in the wrong order. For you see, upon capturing Darkrai in Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, a dialogue is heard. Darkrai, your power is strong. Though you don't will it, you make people and Pokemon around you see terrible nightmares. That is why you came here. New Moon Island. There is no one but you here. There is none that can be drawn into your nightmare. If anyone were to fall into a nightmare, the Full Moon Island is close by. This dialogue is very easily missed by Pokemon fans as, like with Yu-Gi-Oh fans and Dragon Ball fans and Cosmonaut, they can't read. What this piece of text states is that Darkrai has no control over its ability to create bad dreams, and as such, presumably because of the incident with the girl in Black 2 and White 2, it secluded itself to New Moon Island, specifically so that if its powers ever do leak out from its hiding spot, the cure is nearby. Furthermore, it's very much the case that this ability it has, which it has no control over, is a defensive ability, like Skunk Spray, Spider Venom, or Porcupine Quills. If a skunk sprays you, or if you're bit by a spider, does that make the skunk or spider evil, or is it just doing something on instinct to defend itself? Do animals have the moral right to use such things for self-preservation? Pokemon in the series are very much analogous to animals, therefore to read human morality into them is foolish. As such, Darkrai cannot be seen as evil is a human concept. Moving away from Pokemon headcanons, there are other headcanons that create very annoying misconceptions within the fan bases of certain franchises. Say, for example, the headcanon that Goku is a bad father. A lot of this comes from the fandom of Team 4 Star's Dragon Ball Z Abridged, which is a parody dub of the anime. I use that term very loosely, as you can hardly say that someone like Kaiser Neko is a fan of anything but his own ego, and parodies are supposed to be humorous imitations, not slander. But basically, people believe that because Goku was absent from a lot of Gohan and Goten's childhoods, he's a bad dad, and that Piccolo is more Gohan's father than Goku, which is asinine on the face of it, but let's let the man himself explain why.
Alright, I'm gonna clear my name since some of you motherfuckers have been slandering me. How the fuck am I a bad father when I have died not once but twice for my son? I didn't ditch my family to go train, I was fucking dead. And don't listen to any of that bullshit Dragon Ball Super tries to say about me, I would not fucking say that. You all are gonna listen to the Prince of all foreheads of all people calling me a bad father. He didn't even hug Trunks until he was 8. I'm tired of hearing about the Senzu Bean. I knew he could beat Cell regardless. I didn't throw my son in danger, I trained him, and he was literally the only one strong enough to kill Cell. Get off my dick. Also, how is Dragon Ball Super gonna say I don't know what a kiss is? I have raw dog Chi-Chi more times than I can count. I've kissed her on both sets of lips. Anyway, that's all, but always remember, folks, don't fuck with Dragon Ball fans, they can't read.
To call Goku a bad father is a take that only someone who posits themselves as a media literacy expert would hold. It misses the entire point of the Dragon Ball narrative, and honestly, the way that TFS stands hold up Vegeta's parentage over Goku, it's quite frankly insulting. Then there's the headcanon that Yamcha is a cheating dog who cheated on Bulma repeatedly. The source for this? Bulma herself. So it at least has some concrete canon basis. But to that I say, are we really gonna take the word of a woman who's done this numerous times while allegedly dating Yamcha? What's worse is Dragon Ball Kakarot treats Yamcha as in the wrong and shows him actively cheating on not just Bulma, but 2 other NPC characters. But what people forget about Dragon Ball Kakarot is it's not canon. Heck, the game even includes some of the filler content from anime Dragon Ball. Toriyama's official word of God is that Yamcha still has a fear of women besides Bulma, so is likely going to die alone. Sad as it is, it's Toriyama's word versus the word of the fans, non-canon video games, and a hoe.
Save me, Mario. Please help me, Luigi. No, 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 I don't think so. Why? What you saying, bro? That she's a Luigi. Why you wanna serve she be creeping all alone? Who said this? Everybody knows. Oh, Mario. Don't save her. She's for this. She's don't save her. Don't save her. Please don't leave me alone. Don't save her. She even gave me the toe. Don't save her.
For the record, Toriyama stated this about Yamcha shortly before the movie Battle of Gods. It was also around this time where he answered the question about launch, saying, mind you, in jest, that he just sort of forgot she exists. A major thing driving these headcanons is, well, autism. Fans being unable to read context and or emotions and authorial intent, choosing to instead read what they believe makes the most sense. One such example is how some fans read into balance in the Force to include equal parts light and dark side because the dark side is cool, or balance must mean equal parts of both. This spits in the face of pretty much everything not only George Lucas but many other authors and creators have built in the old Star Wars lore, where the dark side is considered corruptive, addictive, evil, and unnatural.
The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural.
Even within the 6 movies alone, the dark side is a corrupting, tempting force that causes nothing but pain, suffering, misery, and deformation as seen by Palpatine's true face being scarred and disfigured. Some that Lucas stated in interviews and even in the novelization, which is based on the first draft of the script, was what Palpatine really looked like. And the face he wore prior was just an illusion. One of my friends, Tracer Krieg, even made a whole video essay about how this interpretation of balance goes against what George Lucas intended. I'll link it here and in the description so you can watch for yourself. To make a long story short though, Freddie Prinze Jr. stated that the Force wills everything that occurs in Star Wars, fundamentally marrying the Calvinist belief of predestiny, which goes against Lucas's core beliefs that the Force allows free will. In fact, if the Force did have its will, Qui-Gon would have survived to train Anakin, however that's going into a whole different tangent. Of course, the reason that Grey Jedi and Balance in the Force headcanons actually exist is simple. Only a Sith steals and Force lightning, at least based on what we see in the movies. And being able to shoot lightning out your fingers looks cool. The thing is though, you don't even need to dig that deep into the expanded lore to find out the Jedi can do it too. Master Plo Koon is quite proficient in that ability. But fans gonna headcanon because fans do what fans do. Though not every headcanon is bad, nor is having a headcanon a bad thing. I believe a few of my own, such as the headcanon that Gunn in Sonic Adventure 2 only arrested Sonic to cover up their own incompetence in letting Eggman free Shadow. If you know anything about shadowy government agencies in real life, you know this headcanon is beyond realistic and plausible, but there's very little proof of it outside of fan speculation and tertiary materials. The problem comes in when you treat headcanons as actual canon material. This leads to outsiders looking into a franchise being confused, misinformed, and getting the wrong ideas about stuff. Lord knows I know how that feels with how bad headcanoning is to some franchises. I still can't believe Moon Knight never threatened Dracula while on a ketamine-induced bender.
I know you're here, Dracula! You big fucking nerd. Dracula is not here at the moment. Leave a message at the beep. Beep? Where's my goddamn money?
The reason you shouldn't treat headcanons as actual canons is simple. It's not cool to spread misinformation. Always understand that when you're promoting a headcanon, you should state up front that there is no official evidence to support your claim. It's just a fan theory you either came up with or you're spreading because you think it's fun. It's a matter of being able to do simple research and never take yourself too seriously. Sometimes people can make mistakes, even you. There's nothing wrong with that. It's what makes us all human. But that's about it for this one. This has been the Koopa Man. If you like this video, leave a like and subscribe, and have a look at my channel library as it helps me get found by the YouTube algorithm. If you have examples of headcanons you believed were canon, or headcanons you personally subscribe to, but are aware they're just headcanons, share about it in the comments as I'd love to hear about it. Remember to headcanon responsibly, and until next time, game on.